SC Limited from gaming to Southeast Asia's Amazon. In 2009, while Silicon Valley entrepreneurs were building the next generation of social media platforms and Mark Zuckerberg was expanding Facebook beyond college campuses, a Stanford MBA graduate named Forrest Li was returning to Singapore with a different vision entirely. Li, born Li Xiaodong in China, had spent years studying the digital landscapes of both the United States and Asia, and he saw an opportunity that others were missing. Southeast Asia, with its 650 million people spread across diverse markets from Indonesia to Thailand, was ripe for digital transformation, but it would require a fundamentally different approach than what worked in Silicon Valley or even China. Lee founded Garena, initially focusing on online gaming distribution, but his true ambition was far grander. He envisioned building what would become the Amazon of Southeast Asia, starting with gaming as the foundation. The company he started with just a handful of employees in a small Singapore office would grow into Sea Limited, achieving a market capitalization that peaked at over $200 billion, making it one of the most valuable companies in Southeast Asia and turning Lee into one of the region's wealthiest entrepreneurs. But this empire wasn't built overnight, and it wasn't built by simply copying Western models. Lee's journey from gaming entrepreneur to digital commerce titan required navigating complex regulatory environments across 7 different countries, each with their own languages, currencies, and consumer behaviors, while competing against both local champions and global giants like Amazon and Alibaba. The foundation of Lee's empire began with a deep understanding of Southeast Asian gaming culture and the realization that gaming could serve as more than just entertainment. Garena launched as a gaming platform that distributed popular titles like League of Legends, Defense of the Ancients, and later developed its own games, but Lee was already thinking 3 steps ahead. He recognized that gaming would create digital payment habits, build user bases comfortable with online transactions, and generate the cash flow necessary to fund expansion into other digital services. By 2012, Garena had become the exclusive distributor for League of Legends in Southeast Asia, Taiwan, and parts of Latin America, serving over 17 million registered users and hosting more than 1.2 million peak concurrent users. The company's breakthrough came with the development of Free Fire, a battle royale mobile game specifically designed for Southeast Asian markets where mobile phones often had limited processing power and internet connectivity was inconsistent. Free Fire became a phenomenon, eventually becoming the most downloaded mobile game globally in 2019 and 2020, with over 80 million daily active users at its peak. The game generated over $1 billion in revenue in 2020 alone, but more importantly for Lee's broader strategy, it created a massive user base of digitally native consumers who were already comfortable making in-game purchases, setting the stage for the next phase of his empire. The gaming success also attracted attention from major investors, with Tencent taking a significant stake in 2010, providing both capital and strategic guidance from China's most successful internet company. This partnership gave Lee access to Tencent's gaming expertise while maintaining independence to adapt strategies specifically for Southeast Asian markets. Building on the gaming foundation, Lee launched Shopee in 2015, directly challenging established e-commerce players like Lazada, which was backed by Alibaba, and regional players across multiple markets simultaneously. The timing was crucial because smartphone adoption was accelerating across Southeast Asia, but most existing e-commerce platforms were designed for desktop users or simply copied models from China and the United States without adapting to local preferences. Shopee differentiated itself by gamifying the shopping experience, incorporating features familiar to Garena's gaming audience, like daily check-ins, interactive games, and social elements that made online shopping feel more like entertainment. Lee understood that Southeast Asian consumers, particularly in markets like Indonesia, Thailand, and Vietnam, were often first-time internet users who needed more guidance and engagement than experienced online shoppers in mature markets. Shopee introduced features like in-app chat between buyers and sellers, extensive product reviews, and live streaming shopping events that made the platform feel more social and trustworthy.
The company also solved critical infrastructure challenges by building its own logistics network, partnering with local delivery services, and implementing cash on delivery payment options for consumers who didn't have credit cards or were hesitant to pay online. By 2018, Shopee had become the most visited e commerce platform in Southeast Asia, handling over 2 billion orders annually and processing gross merchandise volume worth over $35 billion. The platform's success was driven by its ability to adapt to local markets while maintaining consistency across the region, offering everything from flash sales during local holidays to partnerships with local celebrities and influencers who could drive adoption in specific countries. The third pillar of Lee's empire emerged with SeaMoney, the company's digital financial services division that leveraged the user bases and transaction data from both gaming and e-commerce operations. Launched in 2014 but significantly expanded after 2017, SeaMoney addressed one of the biggest barriers to digital commerce growth in Southeast Asia: the fact that over 400 million adults in the region remained unbanked or underbanked. Traditional financial institutions had been slow to serve lower income consumers, small businesses, and rural populations, creating an opportunity for digital first financial services. SeaMoney started with digital wallet services that allowed users to pay for games, shop on Shopee, and transfer money to friends and family, but quickly expanded into broader financial services, including loans, insurance, and investment products. The division benefited from Sea's existing ecosystem because users who were already comfortable making digital payments for games or online shopping were natural candidates for other financial services. By 2021, SeaMoney was processing over 4.6 billion payment transactions annually, with a total payment volume exceeding $9.3 billion. The digital wallet had over 45 million users across Southeast Asia, making it one of the largest fintech platforms in the region. SeaMoney also pioneered innovative lending products, using data from users' gaming and shopping behaviors to assess creditworthiness for people who had no traditional credit history. This data-driven approach allowed the company to offer small loans and credit lines to merchants on the Shopee platform, as well as individual consumers, creating additional revenue streams while supporting the growth of the broader ecosystem. Lee's strategy of building an integrated digital ecosystem proved particularly powerful during the COVID-19 pandemic, when Sea Limited experienced explosive growth across all three business segments simultaneously. While many companies struggled with the economic disruption of 2020 and 2021, Sea's revenue grew from $4.4 billion in 2019 to $9.9 billion in 2021, nearly doubling in just 2 years. Free Fire saw unprecedented engagement as lockdowns drove more people to mobile gaming, with the game maintaining its position as the world's most downloaded mobile game and generating over $2.8 billion in revenue during 2021. Shopee benefited even more dramatically from the shift to online shopping, with gross merchandise volume growing from $35.4 billion in 2019 to $62.5 billion in 2021, as millions of Southeast Asian consumers who had never shopped online before were forced to try e-commerce during lockdowns. The platform's number of orders grew from 2.8 billion in 2019 to 6.8 billion in 2021, while the number of sellers on the platform increased from 4.5 billion to 11.1 million over the same period. SeaMoney experienced similar growth, with quarterly payment volume growing from $1.4 billion in early 2020 to over $5.7 billion by the end of 2021. This pandemic-driven growth validated Lee's long-term thesis that Southeast Asia was undergoing a fundamental digital transformation, but it also created new challenges around logistics, customer service, and competition as global players like Amazon and TikTok began investing more heavily in the region.
The company's expansion beyond Southeast Asia demonstrated Lee's ambitions to build a truly global technology empire with significant investments in Latin American markets that shared similar characteristics to Sea's original base. In 2019, Sea launched Shopee in Brazil, followed by Mexico, Colombia, Chile, and Argentina, recognizing that these markets had large mobile-first populations, developing e-commerce infrastructure, and opportunities for digital financial services. Free Fire had already proven successful in Latin America, becoming the most popular mobile game in Brazil and several other countries, providing Sea with brand recognition and user data that could support e-commerce expansion. By 2021, Shopee Brazil had become one of the top e-commerce platforms in the country, competing directly with established players like Mercado Libre and Amazon Brazil. The Latin American expansion was supported by Sea's experience adapting to diverse markets with different languages, currencies, and regulatory environments, skills that had been developed through years of operating across Southeast Asia's 7 primary markets. However, the international expansion also highlighted the challenges of competing with well-funded local players and established global platforms, leading Sea to eventually retreat from some markets like India and France to focus resources on its strongest opportunities. The global expansion phase provided valuable lessons about the scalability of Sea's business model and the importance of achieving sustainable unit economics before pursuing aggressive growth. Sea Limited went public on the New York Stock Exchange in October 2017, raising $884 million in what was then the largest tech IPO by a Southeast Asian company. The public listing provided capital for expansion while also serving as a validation of Lee's vision for building a regional technology champion. The stock performance reflected investor enthusiasm for Sea's growth prospects and the broader potential of Southeast Asian digital markets. Sea's market capitalization grew from approximately $6 billion at IPO to over $200 billion at its peak in late 2021, making it more valuable than established technology companies like Twitter and Snapchat. Lee's personal net worth peaked at over $20 billion, making him one of the wealthiest individuals in Southeast Asia and one of the richest Chinese-born entrepreneurs globally. The company's valuation was driven by revenue growth rates that consistently exceeded 100% year over year, improving profit margins as the business achieved greater scale, and investor confidence in the long-term potential of Southeast Asian internet markets. However, the stock also experienced significant volatility, particularly in 2022 when concerns about slowing growth, increased competition, and rising interest rates led to a decline from peak valuations. The public market performance highlighted both the opportunities and challenges of building a technology empire in emerging markets, where growth potential is enormous, but execution risks and competitive pressures are equally significant. Lee's leadership style and strategic vision became crucial differentiating factors as Sea scaled from a small gaming company to a diversified technology conglomerate with over 67,000 employees across multiple countries. Unlike many technology entrepreneurs who focused on perfecting a single product or service, Lee consistently pursued what he called integrated ecosystem strategy, where gaming, e-commerce, and financial services would reinforce each other and create competitive advantages that would be difficult for specialized competitors to replicate. This required building management teams with expertise across very different business areas, while maintaining a unified company culture and strategic direction. Lee emphasized long-term thinking over short-term profitability, consistently reinvesting gaming profits into e-commerce and financial services expansion, even when those segments were operating at losses. The company's approach to talent development included recruiting from global technology companies, while also developing local leadership teams who understood specific market dynamics in countries like Indonesia, Thailand, and Vietnam. Sea's corporate culture emphasized experimentation, rapid iteration, and adaptation to local markets rather than rigid adherence to standardized processes, which proved essential for success across diverse regulatory and cultural environments. Lee also demonstrated sophisticated understanding of capital allocation, raising money from strategic investors like Tencent and Alibaba while maintaining independence, and timing the public offering to provide growth capital during a critical expansion phase. His ability to balance the needs of gaming enthusiasts, e-commerce merchants, financial services customers, employees, and public market investors required developing communication and management skills that evolved significantly from the early days of Garena. The competitive landscape that Sea navigated included both regional players and global technology giants, requiring different strategies for different business segments while maintaining overall strategic coherence. In gaming, Sea competed with global publishers like Activision and Electronic Arts, as well as regional developers, requiring continuous investment in game development capabilities and content licensing deals. The success of Free Fire demonstrated Sea's ability to create original content that could compete with established franchises, but maintaining that success required ongoing investment in game updates, marketing, and community building. In e-commerce, Shopee faced direct competition from Lazada, which had significant backing from Alibaba, as well as local players like Tokopedia in Indonesia and global expansion efforts from Amazon and JD.com.
The competitive dynamics required Sea to maintain rapid growth while also improving unit economics and building sustainable competitive advantages through logistics networks, merchant relationships, and customer loyalty programs. SeaMoney competed with both traditional banks and fintech startups, requiring regulatory approvals in multiple countries while building trust with consumers who were often using digital financial services for the first time. The company's integrated approach created competitive advantages because users who played Free Fire were more likely to shop on Shopee and use SeaMoney services, but it also created complexity in terms of resource allocation and strategic priorities. By 2021, Sea had achieved market leadership positions in multiple business segments across several countries, but maintaining those positions required continuous innovation and investment in the face of well-funded competition from both regional and global players. Looking back at Lee's journey from 2009 to 2021, Sea Limited represents one of the most successful examples of building a technology empire adapted specifically for emerging markets rather than simply copying models from the United States or China. The company's evolution from gaming distributor to regional digital commerce leader demonstrated the potential for Southeast Asian technology companies to achieve global scale and compete with established internet giants. Lee's strategic vision of building an integrated ecosystem proved prescient as mobile internet adoption accelerated across Southeast Asia and consumers became comfortable with digital services across multiple categories simultaneously. The financial results validated this approach, with Sea achieving over $9.9 billion in annual revenue by 2021, serving over 650 million users across gaming, e-commerce, and financial services, and achieving profitability in its core gaming business while investing heavily in growth opportunities. The company's success also contributed to broader development of Southeast Asian technology ecosystems, inspiring other entrepreneurs and demonstrating to global investors that the region could produce world-class technology companies. However, Sea's story also illustrates the challenges of sustaining rapid growth in competitive markets, managing expansion across diverse regulatory environments, and meeting the expectations of public market investors while pursuing long-term strategic goals. Lee's empire-building journey continues beyond 2021, but the foundation he built through gaming, e-commerce, and financial services integration has established Sea Limited as one of the defining technology success stories of Southeast Asia's digital transformation and a model for entrepreneurs building technology companies in other emerging markets around the world.